The embryology of the thyroid and parathyroid glands underlies the anatomical position, anatomical variations in congenital conditions of these structures. It is therefore vital for surgery. Figure 55.1. The thyroglossal duct develops from the median bud of the pharynx. The foramen cecum at the junction of the anterior 2/3 and posterior 1/3 of the tongue is the vestigial remnant of the duct. This initially hollow structure migrates caudally and passes in close continuity with, and sometimes through, the developing hyoid cartilage. The parathyroid glands develop from the third and fourth pharyngeal pouches. The thymus also develops from the third pouch. As it descends, the thymus takes the associated parathyroid gland with it, which explains why the inferior parathyroid, which arises from the third pharyngeal pouch, normally lies inferior to the superior gland. However, the inferior parathyroid may be found anywhere along this line of descent. See also Chapter 56. The developing thyroid lobes amalgamate with the structures that arise in the fourth pharyngeal pouch, i.e. the superior parathyroid gland in the ultimobranchial body. Parafollicular cells, C cells, from the neural crest reach the thyroid via the ultimobranchial body. Surgical anatomy. Thyroid 2. 3 IPG. Thymus. The normal thyroid gland weighs 20 to 25 g. The functioning unit is the lobule supplied by a single arteriole and consists of 24 to 40 follicles lined with cuboidal epithelium. The follicle contains colloid in which thyroglobulin is stored. Arterial supply is rich, and extensive anastomoses occur between the main thyroid arteries and the branches of the tracheal and esophageal arteries. Figure 55.3. There is an extensive lymphatic network within and around the gland. Although some lymph channels pass directly to the deep cervical nodes, the subcapsular plexus drains principally to the central compartment juxtathyroid, Delphian, and paratracheal nodes and nodes on the superior and inferior thyroid veins, level 6, and from there to the deep cervical, levels 2, 3, IV and V, and mediastinal groups of nodes, level 7. The relationship between the recurrent laryngeal nerve, RLN, and the thyroid is of supreme importance to The. Operating surgeon. A branch of the vagus, the nerve recurs round the arch of the aorta on the left and the subclavian artery on the right. The clinical significance of this is that on the left the nerve has more distance in which to reach the tracheoesophageal groove and therefore runs in a medial plane. On the right, there is less distance and the nerve runs more obliquely to reach the tracheoesophageal groove. Approximately 2% of nerves on the right are non-recurrent and will enter the larynx from above. The nerve runs posterior to the thyroid and enters the larynx at the cricothyroid joint. This entry point is at the level of Berry's ligament, a condensation of pretracheal fascia that binds the thyroid to the trachea. This is the point at which the nerve is at most risk of injury during surgery. In terms of surgical anatomy, the nerve can be located in the tracheoesophageal groove, where it forms one side of Bear's triangle. The other two sides are the carotid artery and the inferior thyroid artery, or at the cricothyroid joint. The nerve will normally be found as the thyroid lobe is mobilized laterally, lying under the most posterolateral portion of the gland called the tubercle of Zuckerkandl. Physiology. thyroxine, the hormones triiodothyronin T3 and L-thyroxine T4 are bound to thyroglobulin within the colloid. Synthesis within the thyroglobulin complex is controlled by several enzymes in distinct steps. Filled circle trapping of inorganic iodide from the blood, filled circle oxidation of iodide to iodine, filled circle binding of iodine with tyrosine to form iodotyrosine, filled circle coupling of monoiodotyrosines and diiodotyrosines to form T3 and T4. When hormones are required, the complex is resorbed into the cell and thyroglobulin is broken down. T3 and T4 are liberated and enter the blood, where they are bound to serum proteins, albumin, thyroxine binding globulin, TBG, and thyroxine binding prealbumin, TBPA. The small amount of hormone that remains free in the serum is biologically active. The metabolic effects of the thyroid hormones are due to unbound free T3 and T4, 0.3% and 0.03% of the total circulating hormones, respectively. T3 is the more important physiological hormone and is also produced in the periphery by conversion from T4. T3 is quick-acting, within a few hours, whereas T4 acts more slowly, 4 to 14 days. Calcitonin. The parafollicular C cells of the thyroid are of neuroendocrine origin and arrive in the thyroid via the ultimobranchial body, figure 55.1. They produce calcitonin. The pituitary thyroid axis. Synthesis and release of thyroid hormones from the thyroid is controlled by thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, from the anterior pituitary. Secretion of TSH depends upon the level of circulating thyroid hormones and is modified in a negative feedback manner. In hypothyroidism, TSH production is suppressed, whereas in hypothyroidism it is stimulated. Regulation of TSH secretion also results from the action of thyrotrophin-releasing hormone, TRH, produced in the hypothalamus. Thyroid-stimulating antibodies, a family of immunoglobulins, bind with TSH receptor sites, traps, and activate TSH receptors on the follicular cell membrane. They have a more protracted action than TSH, 16 to 24 versus 1.5-3 hours, and are responsible for virtually all cases of thyrotoxicosis not due to autonomous toxic nodules. Serum concentrations are very low, but their measurement is not essential to make the diagnosis. Serum thyroid hormones. Serum thyroid-stimulating hormone TSH levels can be measured accurately down to very low serum concentrations with an immunochemilumianometric assay. Interpretation of deranged TSH levels depends on knowledge of the T3 and T4 values. In the euthyroid state, T3, T4 and TSH levels will all be within the normal range. Florid thyroid failure results in depressed T3 and T4 levels, with gross elevation of TSH. Incipient or developing thyroid failure is characterized by low normal values of T3 and T4 and elevation of TSH. In toxic states, the TSH level is suppressed, table 55.1. Thyroid autoantibodies. Serum levels of antibodies against thyroid peroxidase, TPO, and thyroglobulin are useful in determining the cause of thyroid dysfunction and swellings. Autoimmune thyroiditis may be associated with thyroid toxicity, failure or euthyroid goiter. Levels above 25 units per milliliter for TPO antibody and titers of greater than 100 for antithyroglobulin are considered significant. Although a proportion of patients with histological evidence of lymphocytic, autoimmune, thyroiditis are seronegative, the presence of antithyroglobulin antibody interferes with assays of serum thyroglobulin, with implications for follow-up of thyroid cancers. TSH receptor antibodies, TSH-Rub or TRAP, are often present in Graves' disease. They are largely produced within the thyroid itself. Thyroid investigations essential filled circle serum, TSH, T3 and T4 if abnormal, thyroid autoantibodies. Filled circle fine needle aspiration cytology, FNAC, of palpable discrete swellings. Optional filled circle corrected serum calcium filled circle serum calcitonin, carcinoembryonic antigen may be used as an alternative screening test for medullary cancer. Filled circle imaging, chest radiograph and thoracic inlet if tracheal deviation, retrosternal goiter, ultrasonography, computed tomography, CT, and magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, scan for known cancer, some reparations and some retrosternal goiters, isotope scan if discrete swelling and toxicity coexist. Thyroid imaging. The workhorse investigation in thyroid disease for the surgeon is ultrasonography. This modality allows assessment of the gland and the regional lymphatics. Not only can the characteristics of the gland substance be quantified, but critically the presence and features of thyroid nodules can be described. Number, size, shape, margins, vascularity and specificity features such as the presence of microcalcifications can be used to predict the risk of malignancy within a specificity nodule. Regional lymphatics, particularly in the lateral neck, can be assessed accurately for the presence of metastatic deposits. During ultrasonography, FNA needle aspiration, FNA, can be performed more accurately than freehand techniques allow. Ultrasonography has the advantages that it is not associated with ionizing radiation and is non-invasive and cheap, figure 55.5. Visualization of the central neck nodes, in particular those behind the sternum, is however limited. For this reason, when metastatic disease is detected, cross-sectional imaging is required to fully stage the disease. Retrosternal extension, which can often be predicted on a plain chest radiograph, figure 55.6, also requires more advanced techniques to determine the extent adequately prior to considering management. For most of these indications, the imaging modality of choice is CT. Rapid acquisition times minimize artifacts secondary to breathing and the lung fells can be accurately assessed simultaneously. In the setting of an invasive primary thyroid cancer, both CT and MRI may have a role. Contrast-enhanced CT is useful. For determining the extent of airway invasion, figure 55.7, an MRI is superior at determining the presence of prevertebral fascia invasion. Positron emission tomography, PET scans have limited application in thyroid disease. They may be considered in the setting of recurrent thyroid cancer. This is particularly useful when the disease does not concentrate iodine, at which point 4-deoxyglucose, FDG, uptake increases and lesions become positive on PET scans. Isotope scanning. The uptake by the thyroid of a low dose of either radiolabeled iodine, 123 I, or the cheaper technetium, 99 meters Tc, will demonstrate the distribution of activity in the whole gland. Routine isotope scanning is unnecessary and inappropriate for distinguishing benign from malignant lesions because the majority, 80%, of cold swellings are benign and some, 5%, functioning or warm swellings will be malignant. Its principal value is in the toxic patient with a nodule or nodularity of the thyroid. Localization of overactivity in the gland will differentiate between a toxic nodule with suppression of the remainder of the gland and toxic multinodular goiter with several areas of increased uptake with important implications for therapy, figure 55.8. Whole body scanning is used to demonstrate metastases. However, the patient must have all normally functioning thyroid tissue ablated by either surgery or radioiodine before. The scan is performed because metastatic thyroid cancer tissue cannot compete with normal thyroid tissue in the uptake of iodine. Fine needle aspiration cytology (FNAC) is the investigation of choice in discrete thyroid swellings. FNAC has excellent patient compliance, is simple and quick to perform in the outpatient department and is readily repeated. This technique, developed in Scandinavia 40 years ago, is now routine throughout the world. FNAC results should be reported using standard terminology, Table 55.2. Ultrasound guidance allows more accurate sampling and reduces the rate of unsatisfactory aspirates. Classification of FNE needle aspiration cytology reports. Dye 1. Non-diagnostic. Dye 1C. Non-diagnostic cystic. Dye 2. Non-neoplastic. Dye 3. Follicular. Dye 4. Suspicious of malignancy. Dye 5. Malignant.